What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Sterling Still. Welcome to my next episode on Sterling on Cinemas. That's Cinemas with an S. And today, for Way Back Wednesday, I'll be giving you my review on The Rundown with The Rock. Before I begin, if you are new to this video, don't forget to like, share to your friends and family and closest ones and love interests and significant others. Subscribe, leave a comment on the section below. Click that bell to keep up to date with my newest releases in the long run and in the future. And if you're watching this on Instagram, same thing. Comment, like, watch, share. Now, let's move forward. Now, if you've been following The Rock for his acting career, for most of his acting career, you should be familiar with what The Rundown is or what it has. And if you haven't, that's okay. You're at the right place. The Rundown sees Beck, played by The Rock, who is a tight-lipped bounty hunter who doesn't like to use a gun and accepts any job without asking questions. But when Beck's employer, Walker, sends him to the Amazon forest to locate Walker's cocky son, Travis, played by Seann William Scott, from Dude, Where's My Car?, Beck discovers a population controlled by a tyrannical treasure hunter, Christopher Walken. To survive, Beck and Travis must work together without their affections for a mysterious rebel getting in the way. Now, before I move forward and watching this movie again, I kind of focused on the important parts. I kind of focused on the important things and the story structure and all that. So I do kind of feel a different way about this movie than I have previously because I'm looking at it from the perspective of a critic and not somebody in the audience. So you'll understand. So consider this, and I can fairly call this a mixed review. I have mixed feelings for this movie. There's some things I like and there's some things I don't like. So let's get to it. The story. Here's a rundown for the rundown. A bounty hunter travels to the Amazon forest to retrieve his boss's son and bring him back to America. Simple, right? But as we all know by now, this day and age, and just in the history of cinema, of course, every simple plot that is verbally stated in an action flick is never simple and is never easy, especially when it stars The Rock. Aside from having crazy action and stunts and ridiculous comedy, it doesn't feel like there are any other things to love about the movie. One thing I feel like they could have done better. Now this is the part where this is that kind of thing where critics have to state and not just slam, to state and to request. One thing I think they could have done better was kind of give a bigger explanation on this enslaved civilization in Brazil. Like when he went to Brazil, he saw a whole bunch of slaves there, like working and digging and mining. So it was said that all of the slaves dig up the gold for Hatcher, who is the treasure hunter in this movie, and that the gold and valuable resources they dig up is the same that most Americans have and possess and own, including Beck. Now, I guess that is how the character put it, but if this is the case, it certainly made his attitude justifiable, but slavery is still unpleasant to see. Now, I understand that the filmmakers wanted to make bringing Travis back to America the main focus of the film, but there's nothing wrong with including a subplot which could have given the story a nice mix. I'm not saying that there's no subplot at all, but I'm just saying they kind of had a sort of a semi-subplot, if you know what I'm saying. It's a word I made up. I don't know if that's a real term or not, but it's something I made up. A semi-subplot is when you kind of give vague details about a side plot, a subplot in the film. Like when you know little to nothing about an alternative aspect or an alternative plot point besides the main plot point. The characters. The Rundown was one of The Rock's earlier flicks shortly after his retirement from WWE. And I can say, for the most part, nothing much has changed here with this guy. You can watch some of his older things, he's been the same. The Rock gives us a bounty hunter with a moral code on being armed with a gun or even using one. And it still offers some of his signature moments where he goes big, or as he puts it, when The Rock is cooking. Seann William Scott's character, Travis, adds most of the comic relief to the story with his rebellious and narcissistic attitude. The Rundown sports a kind of buddy cop type of dynamic where Travis is the fast talker And Beck is the one whose eye is on the prize, even though the prize is pretty much something that Hatcher is going after. Having to see these two put up with each other is the most funny thing in the movie and nothing else. Rotten Tomatoes gives The Rundown a 69% score. Now, like I said, watching this movie for the fourth time, I had to see it from the perspective of a critic, so I understand how critics feel about this. I'm not saying my opinion has to be the same as everybody. My opinion is going to be mine. It is mine to keep. It is my perspective on films that some people like and some people don't. Now, here's what I say. Although The Rundown has some hilarious moments and ridiculous action, like, don't get me wrong, I love the Rumble in the Jungle battle scene with him and the other Brazilians, and I love the club fight scene. It still contains a story that feels forced into a long sequence of events. You know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever watched a movie where it forces itself to go into places that it didn't need to go? I'm not saying that the filmmakers didn't have to take them to the Amazon forest, of course. Like, his son was there. It was important for the filmmakers to take the character to the Amazon forest to get Travis back. But of course, it extends a simple task to several days. I'm not saying that they can't tell a story, but it feels a lot of elements in this movie happen just for the sake of happening. Like, for example, the fall, which is one of the most ridiculous moments in this movie. Like, the fall isn't something to push the story forward, but just for the sake of having some type of adding a ridiculous factor to the action, to the amount of action or the quality of action in the film. So yeah, I will give this movie 6.3 SOs out of 10. So it's kind of in between. I kind of do like it and I kind of don't. I love the action and I love the comedy, but I don't love the story overall. Like, the story is pretty simple. That's why I'm saying it's pretty basic. It's pretty, with all due respect, it's basic. It's a little thin, but the action and the comedy was great. So that is my review on The Rundown. You can let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below if you've seen it. If you haven't, you can of course you can go ahead and watch it. The Rock gave one of his best performances in this movie, earlier performances. But I'll see you guys next week with my next bunch of videos. Have a great week.